Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be wrapping up the responsive web design certification with the Build a Personal Portfolio page. This is exciting. So yeah, we want to do, we want to follow the following user stories. The portfolio should have a welcome section with an ID of welcome section, and the welcome section should have an H1. I'm not going to go through this right now. What we're going to do is do test-driven development. If you've watched the last few videos of me completing these projects, you'll see that the way that I do it is a little bit different than they recommend. I don't use CodePen. I like using their testing suite so that we can build projects that match the requirements of the testing suite. But I like to build projects that are live on the internet, and so therefore I want to build real software. So we're going to start by opening the terminal. Press Command Spacebar and type in terminal. And then we're going to change directories into the desktop. And so we're working on our desktop. If you look at my page, it's empty. If I list out, you'll see I've got Code, Life, and Multimedia. Those are the only folders that I have. And so I'm going to make a new folder, make directory, and I'm going to call it useful programmer personal portfolio. You can make this named anything that you want. And so you see I've got the folder here. So now I'm going to change directories into that folder by pressing tab after I hit the first letter. So I was able to go CD useful, and then as soon as I typed in use, I could press tab and it would autofulfill. And now I want to touch, which means make a file, and I want to call it index.html. And now I want to open index.html. Okay, so now we've got that open. There's nothing in here right now, not surprisingly. So what I want to do is open it in Atom. So I'm going to say open with the program, or I'm going to say open application, Atom, or whatever text editor you're using. And I'm going to open the index using the text editor. So now if I put in here just a simple H1 tag just to make sure we're working with the right thing, I save this, and then I come back over here, refresh the page. Now I'm in good condition because you can see that the HTML edits that I'm making on this side are matching the style that I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and again, I'm going to do it a separate way. I want to set it up, and I'm going to use a template. I was tempted to just rebuild the whole thing by scratch, but then I found myself, I was going to basically rewrite a template, and where I was going to sit down and work really hard on the CSS and the HTML to make it so that it's a uniquely coded site. But then I realized, if I were to start a real web application that I wanted to make something that was actually useful, I wouldn't even do it that way anyways. And so the better thing to do is to actually do what you would do if you were really taking on client work. You could just go to W3 Schools, and I'm looking down here, I look at the examples, and I click onto the templates. They've got a ton of these beautiful templates, and you get to choose one. And I checked through the requirements, all these user stories, and they had things like the project title. There was something about welcome section, which should have the height of the viewport should be the same. And so I picked a template in which it exists, at least kind of existed that way. And that led me to this one down here. But as you can see, there's tons that you can choose from, and there's no reason to write this stuff from total scratch. Unless you really want to have tight control over the design of your page. But even then, I would say that going with a template makes more sense for this, because you can make something cool and beautiful, and you could also work with code that is well written. All the demo code that I've seen on here has been without flaws, and it's still simple. It's all just single page stuff. And so, yeah, here you can click demo and try it for yourself. Here's the demo. This is what it looks like. It looks great. There's a lot of stuff we don't need on here, which is fine. And so, yeah, and here it has all the code. And I'm pretty sure it's all, nobody's going to probably get upset with you for using this code. So yeah, I'm just coming in here, I'm pressing Command A, I'm pressing Command C, because I'm copying all the code, and then I'm going to move it over to this project, and I'm just going to paste it in, and I'm going to save it here. And then if I refresh this page, you can see we've got the thing up. Now it doesn't have the images, there's a lot of stuff that's broken, and that's why I think it's pretty cool. We basically have to rebuild it, but we don't have to build from scratch. And to be honest, nobody really builds from scratch. You're always, whenever you're programming, you're using libraries and things like that. So I'm sure we'll make code changes, but there's no need to. And we'll be able to look through all this code. So that's what we're going to do. If you don't like that, just watch a different tutorial. This is what CodeCamp gave us. So we're going to kind of go off of a look like this. It's pretty simple. It's just got social medias, a bunch of portfolios, and then this word. A floating nav bar. I'm not sure if the one that we're using, the template we're using, has a floating nav bar, but we're going to find out. So now that I've got the template saved to my computer, or to my project, I'm going to actually close out of the rest of this stuff. And what I want to do is add the free CodeCamp JavaScript bundle to my project. You guys know I'm a stickler for indentation, and so I don't like the fact that the body tag is not indented. It should be indented because it's a subclass of HTML, in my opinion, and so I want to do that. So interesting. They actually don't have this stuff wrapped in a head element, so I want to add a head element to this guy. And I'm going to save that. I wonder if that protects this thing. Okay, so this is my nav menu. And now, okay, we've got head, style, and then style. You see, it's confusing when these aren't indented. Now that it's indented, it's easy to read. Cool. So we're pulling in, this is a CDN. We're pulling in a style sheet, w3.css, which is interesting. We might want to have to pull that in as well. But for now, I'm just going to get the test-driven development working. So I'm going to head back over to responsive this guy. I'm going to grab the JavaScript, and we're going to add that down here at the base. We'll do it underneath this JavaScript as well. So we're going to go script, script, and then the source is equal to this guy. And we want to close the script. And now if we save that and we go back over to our page, refresh, cool, we're pulling in the tests. And so we want to pull this one down and test it on a personal portfolio. And we run the tests. Cool, we're passing a test. Which one is it? It just basically says that we can use HTML and CSS. So now we're doing well. We're in test-driven development phase. We've got a page that we can just remove and use as much as we want. And so let's get after it. All right, so we run the test. So the portfolio should have a welcome section with an ID of welcome section. Welcome section should have an H1 element in the text. The portfolio should use a project section with an ID of projects. Okay. Project section should contain at least one element with a project title. No problem. Project section should contain at least one link to a project. My portfolio should have a navbar with an ID of navbar. Cool. Navbar should contain at least one link that I can click on to navigate to different sections of the page. My portfolio should have a link with a profile link, which opens my GitHub or free CodeCamp profile in a tab window, in a new tab. Okay. My portfolio should have at least one media query. It's weird. No media queries detected. This one should have a media query. Okay, so my guess is what's going on with that is we need to copy the CSS. So I'm going to copy this thing right now. Here, we're bringing in different style sheets, right? This is font awesome. We can leave that there. But the W3 schools, we should have some CSS here. So if I copy this and pull it down, okay, cool. So what's going on here? They have added this CSS via a CDN, but we want to add this CSS to our page. So I'm going to copy all of this, and I know it's annoying. This is really annoying actually, but I'm going to need to put it in here because I think in order to pass the tests, the CSS actually has to be on the HTML page. Normally with something like this, I would extract it out to a separate folder. But because the free code camp tests require that we maintain our CSS rules that they check for, I want to make sure we do that. So yeah, I saved that CSS in there, and now if we run the test, it looks like 2 are passing. So if that should have at least one media query. Okay, now we're getting the media query. Now that we've put all this W3 CSS in there, we can get rid of this guy. I know this looks terrible. It's kind of upsetting that free code camp's test software can't iterate through the style sheet to see if it's in a separate folder. But, you know, what are we going to do? It still works. The height of the welcome section should be equal to the height of the viewport. Okay, so the welcome section. Now, because I chose this template because the welcome section has a big section here, and so I want to make that the welcome section. The navbar should always be at the top of the viewport. Okay, so yeah, well, first off, we want to make the welcome section. I mean, it's basically telling us that we need this element over here. If I inspect the page, the big image, well, if we make that the welcome section, then it should work. That's the nav as well. Interesting. Body. Welcome section. Looks like there's 2 navs. Okay, cool. So this one's in the nav. So we want to make that big image. We want to say big image. So what I'm looking at here is where can I put this welcome section and still pass the tests? I think that we could actually make both navs. Yeah, we can make both navs be part of the welcome section. So our first nav is here, and our second one's here. Well, for a first try, let's try to make this welcome section. And so what do we need to know what the welcome section is? We're setting an ID of welcome section. So we could actually just make this my sidebar and then also welcome section. Now if I save that and refresh the page and run the tests, it did not work. Expect null to not equal null. Welcome section. My portfolio should have a welcome section with an ID of welcome section. Interesting. It needs to have a welcome section. So this is going to be a section, and the ID is equal to welcome section. And then we're going to tab all this out and close this section. So it wasn't just the ID, it's actually that it needed to be a section. So if we refresh the page and run the tests, cool, we've started to pass the test for the first time. My portfolio should have a welcome section with the ID, but inside of that, it wants to have an H1 element. Well, we don't really want that to happen. Let's see. The thing that I want to think about is the navbar should always be at the top, and the height of the welcome section should always be the height of the viewport. Well, they're putting test requirements on us to actually add an H1 section here, and so that's what we're going to do. Let's see here. Oh, I put the welcome section in the wrong spot. I wanted to put it here. Yeah, so here is, I wanted the welcome section to be this section, not the nav here. And so, yeah, let's shrink this guy back down. Save it, refresh over here, and let's run the tests again. Cool, that still passes. That means we have a welcome section. And the welcome section should have an H1 element that contains text. So in here, we want to go H1, useful programmer portfolio. And then if we save that, we refresh the page. Our H1 tag is here. It kind of looks terrible, but right now we're just trying to get these pet tests to pass. We can style everything up later. And the portfolio should have a project section with the ID of projects. So again, section with projects. We want that to show up where it says Jane Doe. So cool. Project section. My portfolio should have a project section. I actually don't want it to be Jane Doe. I want it to be where we put my portfolio. My portfolio. And then we want to have a project section. My portfolio. And then here they've got their individual projects. And a photo grid at a portfolio selection. So these are just each images which sort of fill there. And so we want to create a section. With an ID of projects. And we close the section. Again, I'm always making sure that I get my spacing right. A lot of people don't do that, especially in these tutorial videos, and it bugs me because I like to work with clean code. Run tests. Wow, looks like a few things passed. My portfolio section should have a project section with an ID of projects. The project section should contain at least one element with a class of project title to hold a project. Should contain at least one element with a class of project title. Okay, cool. So inside of here, it wants a class of something that says title. So we can just add that. Oh, that's the padding. And these are each individual sections. So what I want to do here is add in this, and then we want to set this class is equal to project title. And you save this, and now expect 0 to be above 0. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 now. We refresh the page. If you inspect here, the images that aren't showing up are, it says project title in here now. So my guess is that that's going to cause the tests to pass. At least one element with a class of project title. The projects section. Projects section. Interesting. Let's see if we move our section up to here, if this changes its behavior. Okay, that didn't make a difference, so I'm going to put it back here. Now let's see here. Expected 0 to be above. Assertion error. The projects section should contain at least one element with a class of project title. Oh, project tile, not title. So what I'm going to do is copy this. I'm going to press Command F. I'm going to look for everywhere it says project title, and I'm going to change that to project tile. You'll see that's only exists there, so I can do replace all. And if I save it now and I refresh the page, we can run the tests. Looks like we're passing another one. The project section should contain at least one link to a project. Okay, so you see, these are all images. So what do we want to do? We want to link to a project. So we can just go href is equal to, we could just put pound in there for now. And then let's make it so target equals underscore blank. So if I click it, I don't change pages. It just makes it a dead link. Now if I refresh the page here, test 5 should pass because we're linking out to one here. Cool. Test 5 should have at least one link in the project. Okay, cool. Well, because we know that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 project pages, we know we're going to want 4 of these. And so I am just going to stub that in right now. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to add a new image here. We've only got 4 projects, so we can actually get rid of all these guys. Let's save that and see what's happening over on our page. So project, let's inside of here, let's go, let's add a little thing like project 1, but we're going to call it 2, 3, 4. Save this, come over here. Okay, cool. So now we've got it stubbed in pretty well. Cool. Refresh the page. Let's run the tests. We've got 7. It should have a nav bar with an ID of nav bar. Well, we have a nav bar, but what does the ID say? So we come up here. Here we have a nav. We want to keep all of here, but instead of saying ID of, well, we don't want to take my sidebar off per se because it might alter the way it looks. Yeah, it breaks something. If I click here, when we take the ID off, that's not a good thing. So if I search my sidebar, it's going to show up. Okay, cool. It actually shows up down here in our JavaScript. How much have we gone over JavaScript? Okay, we haven't gone over JavaScript much yet. That goes in the next section. But so for that reason, what we're going to do is not mess with it. We're going to leave my sidebar in there. So I left the sidebar in there, my sidebar. But what we want to do, we can add a second ID in order to pass the tests. Run the tests, come over here. We want an ID of navbar in here. So we can have my sidebar, and then we can also go navbar. And if we save that, let's see if it passes the test for number 6. My portfolio should have a navbar with an ID of navbar. Cool. Should have a nav bar. Does it mean that it needs nav bar? Like this? With an ID of nav bar. Nav bar. ID nav bar. Okay, so if we save here and we refresh, run the tests, it's still not passing. So I'm going to make this nav again. I wonder if it can't tell where, if it can only read the first class. It should have an ID of navbar. An ID of navbar. We refresh the page, run the tests. To not equal null. My portfolio should have a navbar with an ID of navbar. HTML navbar. Navbar. But I'm looking at this code right now just to see what the navbar requirement is. I mean, this one has a navbar and it doesn't even have nav, so maybe this one should have an ID of navbar. Let's see if we save that and come back. 6. Welcome section. Okay, so we broke the welcome section by adding navbar there. This section. Oh, okay, so what if we go here and go ID is equal to navbar. Save it here. Run the tests. Should have a navbar with the ID navbar. Okay, so we were able to get it in there. Nah. The navbar should contain links and things. So we added the navbar to this image section over here, but we don't want that. We need it to have links. We want it to work over here. So I want to remove the navbar sidebar thing. Oh no. Refresh. I'm going to refresh here. I broke the JavaScript. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what I did, but I just did Command Z to a bunch of things. Okay, so nav. Let's see if we go ID here. navbar, and we save this. That breaks it? No, it doesn't break it. Okay, cool. Then we run the tests, and it passes. Okay, so this problem that we have, we don't want to have navbar here because we're going to have the links here, and our links are going to be here. So what we want to do is add navbar to here. My sidebar. Navbar. I just want to write navbar in here. If I save it here and I refresh the page, the navbar starts to not work. Okay, so this is going to be a problem. If I refresh, you can see it works, but the ID, my portfolio should have a navbar with an ID of navbar. Okay, so it's not reading it. If I put it up here, it works, but then it's going to say, your navbar should contain at least one link that I can click on to navigate to different sections of the page. And so the problem is with that is now my navbar is this object over here, and I want it to be this guy, because this one actually works no matter where we are on the page. But if I add the ID here, it causes a problem to my sidebar. I wonder if we could maybe add something in here and just have it be like nav ID is equal to nav, what is it they wanted it? Navbar. And if we save this, I wonder if this will pass the tests. Oh, we want to get rid of it here as well because this would be a false positive. If we refresh, run the tests, 7, it looks like it's still running. Huh. For some reason, it took a while for the tests to run. The navbar should contain at least one link that I can click on to navigate to different sections of the page. Oh, but that's good. That means that I've got this one working. So now, well, in here we've already got portfolio, about, and contact. What if I wonder if I put this guy underneath and refresh. Okay, that totally broke it. I'm going to undo that. If I save it like this, I've still got... Oh, I need to close this nav. Close that. Now I'm nesting a nav within a nav, which is not good, but it's working. And the navbar should contain at least one link that I can link on to navigate to different sections of the page. So here, if you click here, you can actually go to home and it'll jump to like about, it'll jump to about. So the portfolio, the page that we already had actually already has the links to the different sections. Header, portfolio. Let's see, I was getting trouble from doing this. From having that blank thing in there. I think that's messing up our tests because you can see other windows opening up. So I'm just gonna copy it like that. We don't need to open up a new page when that happens. So let's run the tests and that'll probably cause things to run a little easier. Awesome. So now we've actually, the template that we're using actually already solved some of the problems that we were having. So yeah, my portfolio should have a link with a profile link, which opens my GitHub or free code camp profile in a new tab. Okay, cool. So this one actually already has some links down here. So yeah, let's check those out. This is, so they've just got the icons here. And so we want the free code camp and we want a GitHub. So yeah, let's check out some fonts. We already know that Font Awesome has been loaded because the top, we already saw that JavaScript. So we know we can, and then also down here, they're actually just using Font Awesome ones. And so actually, I think we could just go GitHub. We might get lucky. come back over here, refresh. Cool, we've got the GitHub logo. And then let's see if we can get lucky again and just get website. And save that and refresh. It doesn't happen. So let's go website. Yeah, we could just use browser. WSER. So if I save this. No. What about free code camp? Oh, cool. They've got free code camp. So let's do that. Free code camp. And then I'm just going to get rid of all the rest of these icons. If I save that and come back over here, refresh, we've got free code camp and GitHub. And I want this to link to my GitHub. So we're going to go ahref is equal to GitHub, IA Robinson. And then I'm just copying the URL. And adding it so that, and we want it to open in a new page. So we go target equals underscore blank. And then we want to close this anchor tag. And then, yeah, we're going to do this again. And now I want this to be, obviously the GitHub account's not going, the GitHub account's right. And then, so what I want to do is link to my free code camp. Useful programmer. And then I copy this. Cool, it worked. Loaded up my useful programmer page. And so I can change this href so that, nope, not GitHub. I want to change the free code camp one. I can save that, come back to my project, refresh. And now we've got free code camp linking to free code camp and IA Robinson linking to my GitHub. Seems to be something wrong here. Powered by W3. What is that? Useful programmer? Not exactly sure why we're having this error. It's happening over here. Free code camp. Target is equal to underscore blank. Oh, I must have accidentally got rid of this. Nope, that's not right. Opacity, W3 hover opacity, free code camp, FA. Useful programmer. What is going on here? So I'm just right clicking and then I press I for inspect element. And that gets me into the footer. And then we've got this, it's part of the free code camp icon, underscore blank. I wonder why that thing is making that. This one's not. href. That's really confusing. What happens if I just create another one? Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, I've got the, I've refreshed it here. I've got an icon that links out to the GitHub and the free code camp. Let's run the tests and see if they passed. Cool, looks like we're passing another one. We should have at least one link that links out to different sections of the page. Should have a link with an ID of profile link, which opens my GitHub or free code camp profile in a new page. So they want the ID to have profile link in here. So we can add the ID and set that equal to profile link. And if we save this and refresh, we want number 8 to pass. Cool, 8's passing. And then the height of the welcome section should be equal to the height of the viewport. Expected 54 to be close to 435. The navbar should always be at the top of the viewport. Oh, cool. The navbar automatically set, so it already passed that test. That might be a tough one for some people. The height of the welcome section should be equal to the height of the viewport. Okay, so how do we get the height of the welcome section? If we inspect here, this is our welcome section. We want the welcome section with an ID welcome section. Let's see, welcome section. Okay, we've set this ID here because of the tests, but we haven't done anything with it. In my text editor, okay, so what I could do is go ID welcome section and then make this equal to height 100%. If I save that, refresh the page, run the tests. Cool. That makes it so we're passing all the tests. Now you might say, Ian, that's kind of whack. Why would you just make your welcome section equal to 100%? When you're doing test-driven development, you want to make it work. It wants to be the same size as the browser. We want the section to be there, but our thing is already doing that. Now, let's look at this. This is our thing. We want it to look like this. This one that we're doing already has the width of 100%. It's already covering the height of the thing. It's just that our welcome section's not the same thing. So we should just get this thing working. Okay, so I want to add an image right now. Let's see here. Let's say image, background image. Okay, so right now this is set to not work. If we go to the console, we can see that this isn't loading. All these things aren't loading. All these images aren't loading. So we should change this and make it so that they do work. Profile girl is the one that is this one. This is the background image. This is profile girl. You can see here profile girl. So what I want to do is change this so that it reads from a folder called images. And then I'm going to call the folder or the file name useful programmer side image or keyboard image. Okay, cool. And now if I save this, I should be able to, and now what I want to do is in my folder, I've got the useful programmer portfolio. I'm going to go Command-Shift-N, or I can right-click and say New Folder. And in here, I'm going to say Images. And now I've got this image that I use for the YouTube channel. And I'm just going to copy that into here by pressing Option. That way I don't lose it from this other folder structure. And then I'm going to just copy this. I'm going to actually just make the image. I'm going to rename it so that it matches the code that I just wrote. And then I'm going to come back over here and refresh the page. Cool. So now I've got the image there. And now I think we could start deleting stuff. Well, first off, the useful programmer portfolio, this should be on this image. So I think I can come down here. Well, inside the background image div, I think that I could put the useful programmer word. And if I save that, and then I could go style is equal to color white. If I refresh that, it's white. And then yeah, I mean that's good for now. Okay, so I want to get 4 images into here. If I look over here, each of these, my portfolio, boom, clicks to here. And so we want, okay, so first off, Jane Doe, not me, useful programmer. A place to learn how to code. A place to learn to make meaningful contributions to software projects. Cool. Resume, we don't need it. Nobody said there was a resume in there, and there's no reason to try to do that here. Refresh. It looks like there's two images. Profile girl image in here, display margin. Okay, so I don't even know what this is. What happens if I delete it? Cool, nothing. Good, it's gone. Portfolio. Okay, ID portfolio. This is important. This is related to the thing. Portfolio, home. Yeah, and so my portfolio, we can leave that. And then our projects are in here. So each of these projects needs to have an image. And right now, it's all linked up here. We know that the images is actually incorrect. We want it to just be images. And then we want to say, well, our projects were, well, let's just pull them in. Okay, so images, these, I'm just going to use the images from my YouTube tutorials. So build a tribute page and survey form. Survey form. Landing page. Product landing page. And technical documentation page. Okay, cool. And so if we click through here, we see that they've all got good names now. So I'll make this just technical documentation. I'm going to make this a survey page. I'm going to make this landing page, product landing page. And I'm going to make this tribute page. Technical documentation page. Survey page. Product landing page. All right, cool. So now I've got images in here for each of these. And all I have to do is link them up here. So here I've got product landing page. And I can make this one product landing page. And now I'm just going to save it to see if it works. Okay, so it didn't work. What happened there? Oh, I think I want to just go like that. Yeah. Nice. Oh, now I don't need this in here because the images are actually doing the work. So if I refresh the page, the product landing page is in there. Okay, cool. So I want to get rid of the / here, and I want to add this. Let's say, what was the other one? Survey page. Technical documentation page. And what was the last one? Tribute page. So if I save all those, cool, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got them all. Nice. And I can get rid of project 2. That was filler stuff, just so I could see while I was coding. Let's see. We could just center all these in their element, which is a cheap way to do it, but I think that it's useful. No, you can't do it with this. Okay, cool. I'm going to get rid of all the centers. And I'll save that. All right, so I've got my portfolio. Run the tests. Tests still pass. These all need to link out to the individual pages. And so what we could do is go to GitHub and actually link to these via... we can link out to their direct GitHub links, right? So if I go to GitHub, and then I go to my page, my repositories, technical documentation page, I can just link, so I can right click here and say copy link address. And then the technical documentation, here's the link for that. And if I save it here, I can come back over here and refresh the page. And even though the tests are passing for this, they're not actually doing it. So if I click here now, technical documentation page goes to my how to start a motorcycle. That was the technical documentation, which I did in the last one. Let's go back to GitHub and back to repositories, and I could go tribute. Jimi Hendrix tribute page. Again, I linked it here, so I can copy this link address. Let's see, tribute page. Oh, that's the source for the image. Here we can link out to that. Come back to W3 schools, and then if I click the tribute page, it will actually go to the tribute page that I built in a previous tutorial. Cool. What was the next one? A survey. I go back to repositories. Survey form. Oops. Looks like I've done more than one survey. Survey form for portfolio. That's the most recent one. Okay, cool. Survey form, copy link address, bring it back over here. I find the survey image, add it to the anchor tag, and then finally we've got the landing page. Product landing page. Yeah, the one that I made 5 days ago. Cool. And then this one, again, I always link them here. Copy link address. Come back over here, product landing page. And now if I save that, and we go back to here, we can see that each one of my projects were linking out to an individual page which we created beforehand. Okay, so let's go. This can stay here. Obviously, if you're making your portfolio page, you're going to care more about what it says on it. But again, I wouldn't get too hung up on it. You're going to make better portfolio pages once you become a more accomplished developer. It makes sense to just kind of bang this stuff out right now. This My Skills photography, like, I don't even understand why people put this on websites. It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're 95% Photoshop. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of all that. Yeah, here it is, My Skills. So we're leaving in the About section, but we're getting rid of all this nonsense. The next thing is got this 14 partners, 55 projects done. I mean, again, I don't think anybody ever cares about this stuff. I wouldn't even put this in here. You don't need to download the resume. We're not going to set that up. Refresh. My reputation. This would be a good thing to fill in if you were actually going to use this as your thing. Obviously, or not obviously, but you just throw your images in just the way that we did the background image here, and then you customize these. So reference 1 or whatever. But since I'm not going to do that for this tutorial because that's pretty obvious how to do that. Price. This is not a pricing or thing website. We don't want to add pricing here. A lot of people who are looking for programmer jobs don't care about that. Gigabyte storage, we don't have any of that, so I'm just going to get rid of it all. Yeah. So this is the end section. We don't need this comment stuff in here either. That's just from the template that we left over. So I'm going to get rid of all the comments. Menu to item, page content. Cool. Hidden sidebar. Don't need that. Sidebar with image. Yep, we know about that. All right. Contact me. Information. I wouldn't recommend putting your phone on the internet. So don't do that. We can get rid of their email. We could say ian@usefulprogrammer.org. And we'll put Laniakea here. Refresh the page. Cool. Laniakea, usefulprogrammer.org. Looks like they have an image in here of a map. You can throw an image of a map in here if you wanted to. Let's get in touch. Not really into having a form where people can contact me. I think that this is actually even easier. And then we've got our footer. We can end the contact section. Sure, we do not need to have some super powerful contact section, especially not at this point in the development process. Cool. Let's see here. Powered by w3.css. I like to keep that in there because we use their code. It doesn't make sense to remove it. It's And it's not something we're hiding from. We're not like, oh, we don't want people to know that we used a template. Like, if you're using a template, it's good to give people credit that deserve it. If you refresh the page, useful programmer portfolio, we're looking good. A place to learn to make meaningful contributions to software projects. My portfolio. We've got a link out to GitHub. If we run the tests, we're passing right now. So this is a great, this is a very basic sort of start. I think that, anybody who's working on this project, they're going to be able to take this and do much more with it if they want. I think if you followed along with me, you're at a point now, you could have just not deleted all that stuff and filled it in as you wanted. This is kind of tricky stuff. If you start messing with the JavaScript, you're going to want to have that background of JavaScript that you're not going to have yet because we're at the beginning of the portfolio still. But you could spice this up with some of your own stuff and do it as much as you want. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I don't think that it's necessary for you to see me just build a bunch of customized stuff to me. I mean, right now you've got something that passes and it's linked out to each of our previous projects that we've done in this section, and people could click here and run the test as well here. Is this the one that... What the heck? Oh, I must not have pushed up my code there. Anyways, I think the product landing page. Well, okay, so your product landing page might not work still. Let's see. What the heck? Oh, I see what's going on. I need to say, here we are on our survey. Run the tests. Cool, the survey form. Oh, that's like that. Cool. That's cool. That works. Run tests here. This isn't the survey form. This is the product landing page. Run tests here. This is that one that had that wacky test where you had to scroll first. Another thing is when I was starting to program, I got so hung up on getting tests to pass and all this stuff that I really spent a lot of time building web pages that were just basically useless. It's good to practice, but it's better to just move on and keep developing your skills because you're going to reuse all these skills a lot of the time. Here's the tribute page. Run the tests, that passes. And so, yeah, I mean, this is going to be pretty good for our purposes now. So let's say get status. Okay, so you guys remember this from last ones, but I'm going to go over it again. Here we want to say, we want to create a new repository in our GitHub after we log in. We create a new repository, and we're going to call this one useful programmer portfolio page. So it's going to add the commas in here for that. The portfolio page for the useful programmer tutorial series. Now I'm going to create this repository. Cool. So I've got a new repository up. I want to push an existing one. And so, but first, before we can push an existing repository, we want to make sure that we're in the portfolio that we are working in. And we want to say git add. Okay, so it's not a repository, so we want to go get init. Initialized one, so we want to say git status. We don't have to say git status, but we just want to see what's going on. Oh, there's a DS store file. So we'll go git add period, and then we'll go git commit. Here we're going to say add our portfolio page to add our portfolio page. And now if we go git status now, it means that, now we were able to commit the message to there. Now what we want to do is push our code up here. So we're going to add GitHub as the remote. Once that's done, we want to push this branch to origin master, which is the one that GitHub will read from. So right now we're pushing our code up to this repository. And once it's completed, this page will render our code. It seems to be taking a while for some reason. Cool. And now if we refresh this page, it shows up and our code is here. DS store files, by the way, are useless. So if you want to, rm-rf.dsstore, that just gets rid of them. Okay, and then finally, now that our code's up, our index is here, we've got our images here, and then we can run to settings, and then scroll down and use the master branch to publish the GitHub pages. The page will automatically refresh, and down here we will have a link to our portfolio page. So we can copy this link, and right now it doesn't go anywhere, but it will in a moment. So it just takes a while for GitHub pages to serve it on their machines. So it's spinning it up right now. So it's good to just be patient. I got rid of this DS store file. If you go git diff or git status, you can see that this has been noted as a change that we have on our local machine, but it hasn't changed because we haven't pushed our code up. And so what I want to do now is add a README so that there's a link to our portfolio page here. So I'm going to touch readme.md. I'm going to open readme.md, and then I'm just going to say useful programmer portfolio page. And underneath it, I'm going to add a link to the portfolio from useful programmer. And here I'm using GitHub markup. So if you put square brackets around a thing and then you put curly brackets without a space directly after, including a URL, it will show up as a link. And so git status, you see we've got two changes, and we want to remove the DS store file, which is just something that's generated from iOS, and we want to add the README. So we're going to say git add, and we're going to do dot, which means we add everything. Now we go git status. We don't have to go git status, but this just shows us that we have these changes ready to be committed. And so we go git commit -m, and then we're going to say add a brief README. And now we're going to go git push. And because we've already added the remote, that is going to cause the page to get uploaded. And then if we refresh our page here, the portfolio from useful programmer, and the README shows up here. I want this to be capitalized. Git add, git commit, fix typo. Here I'm just, I want this to be capitalized. I don't want this to have an error on it. Now I'm going to git push. So now I've made a git commit that just simply does this single thing of adding the capital P to this page. Cool. And then if we click here, we see our portfolio page is up and running on the live internet, which I think is a little bit cooler than having your portfolio be on a CodePen thing, because people who hire you to do web work are going to want to see you publishing things to the web, not necessarily publishing things to, CodePen and things like that. And if I go over to settings, with this, you could actually redirect this if you want to go through some tricky stuff with a custom domain. And so you could say, instead of having it say your GitHub information, you could have it be like portfolio.yourname.com or something, and that'll make you look real pro. I'm not going to go through that in this section. But yeah, I've got the URL for the portfolio page that we just spun up, and I'm going to go back over to Free Code Camp, build your personal portfolio page, and I'm going to paste it in here and say I've completed the challenge. Boom. So I'm at 100%. That means that we've completed the responsive web design certificate. Huh. It's been a while since I did this. Oh, it looks like it just bounced through that certificate process. But yeah, I think now everything's complete for the responsive web design certificate, which is pretty awesome. If you go view my portfolio, yeah, you see that the things here, and yeah, that's it. That actually wraps up the responsive web design certificate. So yeah, that's awesome. If you guys have been following along with me the whole time, that's pretty amazing. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. And that's it for this section. I've already kind of completed a lot of the JavaScript algorithms one, so if you catch up with me to this point, there's plenty of work to go. This is a JavaScript algorithm stuff is super exciting, and it starts getting more and more fun as you get through this. And then the front-end library certification, I've started on a bit of this. This is when you really get the development experience that you need to start making, meaningful contributions to projects. So anyways, don't worry about that stuff. Just take a minute to congratulate yourself for getting a responsive web design certification from Free Code Camp. It's very exciting. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next lesson.